4 spine-chilling cases of déjà vu that expose sinister secrets and unexplained horrors. Jessica's heart hammered like a trapped bird inside her chest. Every midnight shift at the diner felt heavier, charged with an undeniable tension that prickled her skin. In the quiet suburb of Mapleview, the usual hum of crickets was drowned by the haunting sound of a dog barking at an ungodly hour. It sent chills spiraling down her spine, igniting a deep-seated fear she couldn't shake. And then it came, the déjà vu. A flicker, a fleeting moment where the mundane twisted into the surreal. She felt it when she saw a child's face peering in her window, illuminated by the grim glow of the streetlight. Their vacant gaze clawed at her sanity, and before she could blink, they vanished. Just like that. As daylight waned over her almost idyllic neighborhood, Jessica found herself ensnared in a web of eerie déjà vu days, blurred, filled with routine. The aroma of burnt coffee mingled with the scent of autumn leaves outside. Yet something felt off, like unease lurking beneath the comfortable surface of Mapleview. She had brushed it off until her daughter, Lily, joyfully playing with the Smiths' kids, turned the corner of normalcy and seized the wrong end of fate. Just a stress response, they told her dismissively at the police station when she reported Lily missing. Their condescending smiles pushed the panic up through her throat, bubbling over in a flood of breathless pleas. Kids often wander off, they turn up. But the hollowness in their assurances only deepened her fear, amplifying the déjà vu that clung to them like a shroud. Every shadow grew longer. Every whispered laugh sounded malignant, and every glance from the neighbors hinted at secrets buried deep. Desperation clawed her mind as she stumbled upon recordings of old neighborhood tragedies, children gone, never to return, memories buried behind manicured lawns. The cheerful smiles framed in dusty photographs twisted into sinister grins, stirring a gnawing dread at the pit of Jessica's stomach. Why hadn't she seen it before? Each déjà vu episode echoed through history, drawing her towards a chilling realization. The merry little cul-de-sac had a dark underbelly, hidden beneath the curtains of friendliness. What lives had been lived here, and at what cost? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she delved deeper, every familiar face felt like a mask slipping, revealing monstrous intentions hiding beneath. Her heart pounded louder, deafening in its urgency, when she connected a name to a face another child lost. Their disappearance twisted tightly into the very fabric of Mapleview's history. Suddenly the night was filled with echoes of laughter, twisted in despair. There was a knot in her throat as memories of Lily's laughter flitted in her mind, replaced by a silence that shouted dread. With every dusk that passed, the shadows clawed closer, every tick of the clock matching her frantic pulse. And within that consuming darkness, she thought she heard a whisper that seemed familiar. "Mommy," the voice called, luring her toward the woods behind their house with an urgency that paralyzed her with fear. Was it Lily? Or was it another cruel trick of déjà vu, leading her deeper into a nightmare she couldn't escape? With each step she took into the thickening trees, she knew an unspeakable horror awaited her, just beyond the veil of the familiar. The trees loomed like silent sentinels, their twisted branches reaching for her like skeletal hands. Every rustle of leaves sent shivers down Jessica's spine, amplifying the heavy silence that enveloped her. "Lily," she called, her voice trembling as it sliced through the darkness. The whisper echoed back, haunting and forlorn, mixing with the wind and the aching unknown. "Mommy." She pressed further into the forest, heart racing, each footfall swallowed by the damp earth. Images of Lily danced in her mind, the way she twirled in her summer dress, radiating joy, so innocent. The realization of her absence tugged at Jessica, gnawing at her like a relentless wolf on a leash. She was slipping into the depths, where the trees grew thick and shadows thickened like ink. Then, suddenly, the air changed. The scent of decay clawed at her senses. A chill swept through the branches, prickling the hairs on her arms. Weakened by fear, she faltered. The familiar voice drifted again, but now tinged with something sinister. "Help me, Mommy, where are you?" She stepped cautiously, panic tightening her chest. Her mind raced to keep up with the swirling shadows. Each flicker of movement behind the trees almost sent her heart careening into her throat. Was she being watched? Was she alone in this madness? As she rounded a gnarled oak, a sightless figure appeared, a child. The pale outline stood in stark relief against the darkness, a small silhouette framed by the moonlight. Lily? The name slipped from her lips in a whisper, laced with desperation. But as she drew closer, she saw the truth. It was not her daughter. This child wore garments from another time, dirt-streaked and torn, eyes wide and void of life. Something twisted in her gut as recognition slipped into place, a memory of a face she had seen in the old photographs. A child, long forgotten, etched in the town's sorrow. "Help me," the child's voice was a plea, echoing the cries of other lost souls buried beneath Mapleview's charm. Jessica staggered backward, nausea washing over her. The déjà vu slammed into her like a runaway train. The knowledge of children lost, their spirits lingering, kept caged in the dark woods. She backed away, driven by instinct, feeling the weight of history shifting, pressing in around her. Gripped by fear, she turned to flee, but she heard it again, a whisper, swelling like frost in her veins. "Find us, Mommy, stop!" she yelled, panic igniting her limbs. But the shadows converged, closing in on her. An array of ghostly figures flickered in the dim light, faces contorted in pain. They pointed, beckoning her deeper into the dark, their silent screams begging for liberation. The trees shifted, as if alive, shifting to bar her way. Cold perspiration pooled at her temples, and she could feel the weight of 1,000 eyes on her. The forest was no longer a mere backdrop, it was a trap. She dashed back the way she came, blood pounding in her ears, the voices growing louder, a cacophony of grief that reverberated in the cold night air. But what had she uncovered? What dark secrets of Mapleview had awakened by her search? As she broke from the trees, gasping for breath and choking on terror, a familiar sound echoed through the quiet laughter. "Mommy," a sound not from within the woods, but from her own home. In the depth of the night, Jessica felt dread tighten around her heart. What awaited her now? Her daughter, a reunion, or a final, devastating truth? With a tremor in her hands, she took a step toward the laughter, whispering a prayer. As she reached her front door, it creaked open slowly, an invitation draped in darkness. The laughter seemed to morph, twisting into something unrecognizable, pulling her into a nightmare she could scarcely comprehend. What awaited her inside? In the silence that followed, all she could hear was the haunting echo of the past, and the certainty that something far worse than she ever imagined was about to be revealed. The door swung wide, creaking like an old relic. The interior of the house loomed before her, bathed in soft moonlight, casting elongated shadows that danced against the walls. Jessica hesitated, heart racing. The laughter echoed again, familiar yet off-kilter. It plucked at her mind, a cruel tease tainted with an undercurrent of dread. "Lily?" she called, though doubt threaded through her voice. She stepped over the threshold, the cool wooden floorboards creaking beneath her feet, betraying her cautious movements. The air inside was stale, heavy, as though the house itself held its breath, waiting. "Mommy, come play." The laughter, sweet and innocent, floated down the hallway. It beckoned her, an echo from a life woven with joy and purity. It was Lily's voice. Jessica walked towards the living room, each step heavy with uncertainty. Shadows draped the furniture like ghosts wrapped in memories. She felt their presence, eyes watching her from every corner. She flicked the lights on, but the bulb buzzed and flickered, refusing to illuminate the darkness fully. "Lily, where are you?" Panic surged again. Her daughter's absence weighed on her like a suffocating shroud. The laughter faded, replaced by an eerie silence that enveloped her, thick enough to choke on. She peered into the kitchen, hoping to find her, but the room lay empty, cold, like a tomb. Then she heard it again, a faint shuffle from upstairs, the unmistakable sound of tiny feet padding on the carpet. "Mommy!" It was closer this time, alluring yet twisted, a siren song that promised reunion but felt contaminated by a sinister undertow. Before she could stop herself, she ascended the stairs 2 at a time, dread coiling tighter around her heart. With each step, her surroundings darkened, as though the walls themselves were closing in, snuffing out the warm glow of safety that once lived in these rooms. At the top, she stood before Lily's door, the wood splintering with age and use. Fear clutched her throat as she reached out. "Lily?" The door creaked open, revealing a dim room nearly swallowed by shadows. The bed sat untouched, white sheets neatly folded, devoid of any signs of life. Yet the other side of the room caught her attention there. Standing by the window, framed in a shaft of moonlight, was a figure. "Lily?" Hope surged, quickening her breath, but a chill slithered down her spine as she stepped further into the room. The figure turned slowly. It was a mirror image of her daughter, but the expression was vacant, lifeless. "Help me." The voice was that of her child, yet it sent waves of revulsion through Jessica. She felt the weight of despair crashing over her like a tidal wave. "What have you done?" she whispered, backing away, unable to look away from that haunting imitation. The figure raised a hand, a slow, deliberate movement, beckoning her closer. Suddenly, the room grew colder. The walls seemed to pulse, if not breathe. 1,000 whispers filled the space, melding into a singular voice. "You shouldn't have come back," she spun around. The doorway that had provided an escape now pulsed with darkness, shadows creeping in like claws ready to drag her into the void. The air sparked with danger, revealing visions of children lost, their faces twisted in sorrow and rage. "Leave." The command cut through the vapors of despair, a voice far older than the house itself rumbling within her. Jessica turned to flee, racing down the hall, the laughter morphing into screams, her heart pounding like a war drum. But the stairs morphed beneath her feet, transforming into slippery paths of terror. The walls shifted as if alive, closing in as she ran. Desperation surged through her veins. As she reached the last step, she stumbled, falling into a cold embrace that sent shockwaves through her body. She looked back, ready to scream, but the laughter returned, crashing against her like thunder. "Mommy, we need you. Come play forever." And with that, darkness enveloped her completely, silence pressing down until nothing remained but the fading echo of her own heartbeat against the clamor of the void. What had awakened in the house? What shadows lingered, waiting, yearning for release? Jessica awoke with a jolt, gasping for breath as if she'd emerged from underwater. The cold floor beneath her was solid and real as she lay still, trying to grasp the fragments of her nightmare. Had it been a dream? She rubbed her eyes, blinking against the twilight that seeped through the dusty windows. But the shadows loomed, familiar and suffocating. The air vibrated ominously, an unseen weight pressing down on her chest. She pushed herself up and looked around. No longer in her daughter's room. She found herself in the darkened living room, furniture draped in white sheets like frozen specters. "Lily?" A soft whimper slipped from her lips, heavy with fear. The house felt different now, alive in a way that made her skin crawl. Then she sensed that the atmosphere shifted and thickened. There it was again, a gentle giggle echoing from the depths of the corridor, a siren call that made her stomach churn. With caution, she stood, her legs unsteady. The laughter, innocent but tainted, seemed to swirl around her, pulling her toward the kitchen. The sight of the empty room from before didn't offer comfort. Rather, it twisted her stomach into knots. "Mom, come play." A child's voice, a memory distilled into a haunting echo. She followed, compelled against her will, as if the temple of shadows summoned her to a fate unknown. At the entrance of the kitchen, Jessica paused, heart hammering against her ribs. She peered inside. The room was unchanged. The old wooden table stood bare, still suffocating under layers of dust. The air buzzed with an energy she couldn't place, a crouching tension ready to spring. "Lily?" she shouted, voice cracking. "Where are you?" Nothing responded. Silence reigned, intense and suffocating. But then, she heard the faint scuffling of feet down the hallway again. With that, the weight of expectation shifted. Despair twisted in her gut, hardening her resolve. Maybe this time she'd find her. Jessica dashed down the narrow corridor, praying the shadows wouldn't ensnare her. Her breath quickened. She reached Lily's door, and the handle felt icy against her palm. She hesitated, hand trembling. With all the courage she could muster, she twisted the knob and entered. The room was exactly how she'd left it, save for one disturbing detail: the mirrors. They were everywhere, reflecting her panic, amplifying it. She felt eyes from every corner, saw every quiver of her own flesh. "Help me," it came again, groaning, like a plea from deep within the walls. Jessica spun. The floor beneath her feet seemed to roll, waves of darkness pulsing through her, and she stumbled back, glancing frantically at the reflections surrounding her. Then she saw it, a flicker in the mirror, a shadow behind her, caught in the corner of her eye. She turned, every nerve screaming for her to look away, but it lingered just beyond reach. "Lily," she called, panic surging anew. The mirror shimmered, shifting, distorting, as if the house was breathing. The very walls consumed her voice, strangling it into silence. "Join us." "Mommy," the whisper carried an otherworldly hiss, slipping into her ears like smoke. More grown-up now, yet tainted with a childish laughter, it echoed in her mind, filling her skull with fragments of dread. The mirrors rippled, and she caught a glimpse of Lily, not her daughter, but a twisted visage, smirking at her with eyes that glowed unnaturally. Desperation gripped her heart. "No, no, no." She whipped around, searching for an escape as the shadows lunged, swallowing the light whole. The air crackled with electricity, the world narrowing into the singular focus of that horrific face. "Let go." With a fierce cry, Jessica charged through the darkness, hands reaching for anything solid, anything real. But the more she fought, the more the shadows clawed at her, threatening to drag her under. And just as she felt herself slipping, a blinding light flickered in the distance, promising refuge. But there was no time to consider. Would she make it before the darkness pulled her into its depths? As she lunged towards the exodus, a new voice cut through the chaos, a low, guttural growl, reverberating through her bones. It was closer now. Who else remained in the house? What awaited her in the light? In the heart of chaos, a new terror unfurled. Jessica plunged into the blinding light, her instinct driving her forward. As she crossed the threshold, she felt the shadows clawing at her heels, desperate to reclaim what they had lost. The air here was different, electric, almost alive, thrumming with an energy that sparked her senses. She stumbled into a vast, sunlit room. The high ceilings and ornate chandeliers felt surreal, a stark contrast to the darkness she had just escaped. The space seemed both familiar and foreign, as if it had grown from the very memories she had suppressed. But where was the warmth of the day? Instead, a chill crept through her skin, familiar yet unsettling. Shadows loomed even here, dancing along the edges of her vision, retreating whenever she tried to fixate on them. "Lily?" she called again, hope clanging in her chest, misplaced and fragile. "Baby, are you here?" The silence was deafening, broken only by the distant whispers of a disembodied voice, weaving around her like tendrils of smoke. More laughter, this time sharp and malicious, making her skin prickle. She turned to the walls, covered in portraits of solemn faces, their eyes following her every movement. They were her family, generations staring down at her with bewildered expressions. But the faces were different, the smiles distorted. Were they warning her? Or beckoning her to join their ranks? The laughter crescendoed into a shriek. Jessica spun, heart racing, and spotted a figure darting past the corner of her eye. A pale blur, a child. Her heart leaped as she sprinted toward the sound. But with every step, the air grew heavier, filled with the taste of dread. "Please, Lily," she pleaded, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Just ahead, she caught a glimpse of movement behind an ornate curtain. Jessica charged forward, tearing the fabric aside. The room beyond was just as grand, but it bore the wear of neglect. Dust danced in the gleaming sunlight. Thick cobwebs clung to the corners, and the windows remained tightly shut. Musty air enveloped her, as suffocating as the laughter from before. "Join us," the sound echoed around her, now layered, a chorus of voices wrapped in malevolence. Chills crept across her skin. She glanced over her shoulder, senses on high alert, horrified at the thought that the shadows had followed her here. But the true horror lay before her. In the center of the room stood a mirror, larger than any she had seen. Its surface pulsated like it was alive, swirling images spinning in and out of focus. Each glimpse tugged at her heartstrings, revealing memories she had buried deep, moments of joy mixed with unspeakable sorrow. Among them, a flash of a little girl with bright eyes and a laugh that twinkled in the air. "Lily," Jessica gasped, hands flying to her throat. But the joy melted into screams, the scenes morphing and twisting violently. Faces of despair and pain flickered by, each less recognizable than the last. What were they? Who had they once been? The mirror called to her, its surface rippling like water disturbed. As if it sensed her fear, it billowed forth a sinister glow, drawing her closer with promises of truths long hidden. "Mommy, I want to play." The voice chimed, eerily familiar, enveloping her in warmth amidst the frigid dread. Jessica's breath hitched. Would she dare look deeper? What was reality, and what had the house twisted into lies? Her mind raced. Each heartbeat thundered like a warning bell. Just then, she saw it, the reflection of a figure standing behind her. Tall, dark, and featureless, too close to be a trick of the light. Run! The instinct screamed. But could she escape her own memories, her own guilt? The creature loomed, and Jessica felt an icy grip around her heart. Somewhere in the depths of the house, a door creaked open, inviting her to a realm even darker. What awaited her on the other side? Would she break free or be consumed forever by the shadows? Jessica's heart pounded as she spun back toward the mirror, desperate to escape the figure closing in behind her. With every instinct screaming for her to flee, she dashed across the ornate room, toward the door she had glimpsed. The laughter morphed, becoming a cacophony of skittering whispers, filling her ears and crawling beneath her skin. "Mommy, please don't go." Lily's small voice echoed, still laced with innocence, yet tainted with an underlying threat. Jessica's breath quickened, boiling with desperation. She yanked on the heavy door, only it wouldn't budge. Panic rose within her like bile, a dirty force gushing forward, pushing her to find another way out. The mirror loomed nearby, beckoning her back with its pulsing glow. She shook her head violently, fighting the urge to look again. A single glance could trap her in that shimmering nightmare forever. Jessica glanced around, scanning the room. A window. It stood ajar, the glass framed by peeling paint. She rushed toward it, limbs moving with a natural rhythm born from pure fear. Suddenly, the whispers converged into one cohesive plea. "Stay with us." Fingers scraped against the edges of the window frame, trying to pry it open. The chilling air whipped her hair wildly, tangling against her forehead. The moment she got it open wide enough, she lunged forward, but the oppressive weight of the past bore down on her, freezing her in place. "Mommy!" The cry burst forth from behind her, resolving into a wail of despair. Jessica turned just in time to see Lily's reflection in the mirror, a perfect replica. Yet the child looked forlorn, trapped inside that realm of torment. "No!" Jessica shouted, backing away from the void. "You're not real." In an act of pure instinct, she spun back to the window and forced herself through the opening, scraping her arms against the sharp edges of the frame. She fell into the air, breathless, and landed painfully on grass. Isolation enveloped her. She was outside. Desperation clawed at her throat, and she pushed herself up, glancing around at the sprawling grounds. The sky was too dark, shadows creeping along the boundaries of the garden like sentient beings. But there was no time to linger. The house loomed behind her, its windows dark and forbidding. It felt like a giant beast waiting to swallow her whole if she dared return. But where was Lily? The hairs on her neck stood on end. "Lily!" she yelled, voice cracking. Still nothing, only the rustle of the wind swirling through the trees. Panic turned her gut to ice, a deep chasm of dread opening beneath her. A scream ripped from the darkness of the house, reverberating through the air, a child's scream, echoing her own despair. It sounded like Lily. The sound tore through her heart. A fierce resolve ignited. She couldn't abandon her. She wouldn't let despair consume her again. Trapped memories, haunted voices. This time, she would break free. But as she turned and moved back toward the door, a shard of light flickered overhead, illuminating something lurking in the shadows just beyond her view. A dark figure was emerging, tall, gaunt, with unnatural angles and an oppressive presence. The creature from the mirror? Or something worse? Jessica's breath caught, a chill wrapping around her throat like a noose. The sky dimmed further, an ominous shroud falling over her as the whispers returned, wrapping around her mind and heart. "Join us," the shadows surged, creeping over the ground closer, faster, as if drawn to her fear. With each passing breath, the weight of their intent grew thicker. Jessica braced herself, adrenaline surging through her, heart pounding louder than the drumming of rain in a storm. How could she confront what waited? Was it possible to save Lily without being consumed by the darkness? Jessica took a step back, clenching her fists. "I want to let you take us." But what price would she truly pay for that defiance? And in that moment, a sharp crack sliced through the air as voices joined in a terrible harmony, calling to her from the depths within the house. Where would she find the courage to face what lay ahead? The door loomed behind her, a portal leading to hell itself, or was it a chance for salvation? The line between freedom and damnation blurred as a definitive decision loomed just ahead. What awaited her in the darkness? Would she plunge in or flee from what was meant to haunt her forever? Jessica's feet moved before her mind could catch up, a desperate surge of adrenaline propelling her into the open maw of the house. Shadows twisted and danced in the corners, reaching out as if they had a life of their own. The air grew colder, wrapping around her like icy fingers. "Lily," she called again, her voice swelling with urgency. Each scream that left her lips felt swallowed by the house, consumed like the light of day by encroaching night. The nagging thought of retreat clawed at her as she hesitated by the door, the threshold a barrier between her and whatever vile presence awaited within. She stepped over it, crossing into that oppressive darkness. The whispers receded momentarily, leaving only an unsettling silence, punctuated by the distant echo of a child's laughter. It was sweet, innocent, a heartbreaking sound that cut through her like a blade. Not real, she whispered fiercely to herself, willing away the memories of simpler times, of a playful Lily laughing and dancing in sunshine. Jessica steadied her breath, forcing herself into the depths of the haunted house. A sharp creaking sound echoed from above. She craned her neck, squinting into the gloom. Suddenly, the chill returned, wrapping around her like a cloak. The figure from before flickered in her peripheral vision, a movement so quick it could have been her imagination, yet her heart raced. "Stay with us," the whispers resumed, this time like a distant echo reverberating off the walls, drawing her deeper in. The hallway stretched endlessly before her, the walls lined with photographs of smiling faces. But upon closer inspection, those smiles twisted into grimaces, their eyes blank and hollow, as if they knew a truth too dreadful to share. She pushed past them, her skin prickling as if they were watching, measuring her every move. "Lily, where are you?" She could hear the faint sounds of childish giggles, tainted with a sinister undercurrent. The laughter seemed to pull her down the hall, swirling around her like smoke. She turned corner after corner, heart hammering, dread pooling in her stomach. Then, the laughter stopped. Beneath that eerie silence came a renewed scream, this one narrowly contained, filled with raw panic. "Mommy!" The realization struck her like a punch to the gut. Each cry took on a dark fullness, morphing into something deep and foreboding. How could she get to her daughter when the very walls seemed to conspire to keep them apart? Jessica burst through a door at the end of the corridor, stumbling into a cold, damp room. It was empty except for the mirror mounted on the far wall. Her reflection stared back, but the glass shimmered, radiating with an unsettling pulse reminiscent of that otherworldly space she had fled from. As she stepped toward it, the whispers reached a fever pitch, merging into shrieks. They clawed at her thoughts, fraying the edges of her resolve. She pressed her palms against the glass, feeling an unbearable pull, a need to know what lay beyond. "Where are you, Lily?" she cried again. In response, the surface rippled violently, distorting her reflection. The room behind her blinked out, leaving only dark space where 1,000 pleading faces floated within the glass. Horror collided with a surge of hope. Maybe if she stepped through, she could reach Lily. But what awaited her inside? Would she find her daughter, or would she make the ultimate sacrifice, becoming yet another lost soul? Jessica hesitated, heart pounding in her chest. The mirror's surface quivered, a beckoning promise wrapped in danger. Could she really take the leap? And then, the laughter resumed. This time, it was closer, too close. "Mommy, come play." The voice echoed, pure and innocent, yet laced with a chilling undertone. Jessica clenched her teeth as dread churned in her stomach. She had to make a choice, and time was slipping away. What terror awaited on the other side? Was Lily truly in danger, or was this all part of a horrific trap? With trembling hands, she reached toward the mirror, breath held tight in her chest as shadows closed in. Around her, Jessica's fingers brushed against the cool glass. A wave of energy surged through her, sending icy shivers down her spine. The reflection before her rippled, morphing into grotesque images, faint shadows of children dancing, faces twisted in torment. "Mommy." The voice was a whisper now, an echo that seemed to curl around her. The urgency in those words clawed at her heart. She had to do something. But what? With a deep breath, Jessica gathered her courage. She took a step closer, her heart racing as the glass pulsed against her palm like a heartbeat. A vision pressed into her mind. Lily's cherubic face, chasing after butterflies, the sunlight glinting off her hair. The memory was swiftly swallowed by the dark whirlpool of fear lurking just behind the mirror. "Lily," she cried, the sound of her own voice stark in the dreadful silence. The laughter returned, jarring and dissonant. It fractured the tense stillness, the sweet yet sinister melody echoing off the walls. Suddenly, the laughter morphed into something darker, a chorus of mocking giggles taunting her from the depths of the room. Each cold, lilting sound ruptured her heart, feeding the sense of dread swelling in her chest. "Mommy, come play." The voice was now layered, distorted, as if a multitude of things were vying for attention. The air thickened, suffocating her with oppressive despair, making it hard to breathe. She felt the walls shift, almost leaning toward her, as if the house itself was noticing her presence. "No, not now. You can't have her," Jessica shouted, her voice rising in defiance, mingling with the chilling laughter that filled the room. For a moment, the laughter stuttered, hesitated. The mirror's surface began to ripple again, a dark whirlpool of gasps and whispers drawing her eyes back. Was this her only option? Could she really step through the mirror? Or would that pull her down into whatever torment awaited on the other side? Summoning every ounce of resolve, she leaned in, her fingers curling around the edge of the mirror, the world around her fading into shadows. And then, a sudden chime echoed through the air, like a bell ringing from somewhere deep within the house. It startled Jessica, pulling her back. The shadows retreated just for a heartbeat, revealing the edges of the room once more. "Mommy!" The scream was frantic now, a desperate call laced with fear, seeping from the other side of the glass. It pushed her, urging her forward once again. "Hold on, Lily. I'm coming." In that moment, the mirror crackled with a black energy, swirling, rage and sorrow intertwining with each other just behind the glass. Jessica paused. Could she really trust what lay behind the surface? What if it wasn't Lily at all? What if it was a trap, a decoy luring her into a darkness from which there was no return? The room whispered around her, each breath making the air thicker, more foreboding. The muffled sounds of despair infested every corner like a thick fog. "Come steal your life away," the farewell echoed. Panic clawed at her throat. Should she turn back? Was it worth the risk? The resonance of her daughter's south voice hung tantalizingly close, a siren's call amidst the shadows. Jessica's resolve faltered. Would stepping through that glass save Lily, or doom them both? As her heart wrestled with her fears, reality flickered and faded. Shadows twisted around her, pulling her closer, blending the line between desperation and resolve. Just then, a sudden truth dawned on her. The laughter changed again, now it was laced with anticipation. "Mommy, you've waited too long." Jessica's hands trembled, hovering before the mirror. The question pierced through the darkness, wrapping around her again what was waiting for her. And as the echoes crescendoed into a deafening roar, her instincts screamed that she had only moments left to decide. With her heart pounding wildly, she took a deep, shuddering breath. One choice, but where would it lead her? The air thickened, shadows gathering close, ready to swallow her whole. And as she took a step forward, the laughter split into 1,000 sharp fragments. Playtime has just begun. Jessica's breath quickened, the sound of her heart thundering in her ears like a sledgehammer against the walls of her chest. The chilling laughter surged, a whirlwind of taunts promising dark entertainment and unearthly revelations. She was teetering on the precipice between two worlds. A decision pressed heavily upon her. She clenched her shaking fists. No, it can't end like this. In that instant, the laughter grew louder, urgent, combative. Don't you want to see her? A voice whispered, oily and slick, sliding through the cracks of her thoughts. We're waiting. Mommy, something inside her snapped at the edge of sanity. Adrenaline flooded her body. Could she really let this sinister force win? With renewed urgency, she took a step closer to the mirror, feeling the pulse of it beneath her fingertips. The world twisted and fell away as her surroundings darkened further, shadows stretching to swallow the light, and the air thickened, pressing against her, suffocating her will. Lily, she screamed, her voice piercing through the swarm of tormenting giggles. I'm coming. The mirror rippled again, and for a moment, she thought she could see a figure move behind the glass, a small hand reaching, desperate, lost. Jessica's heart lurched. Could it really be? Could she trust this warped reflection, or was it a cruel trick? A wave of despair crushed her, sinking deep into her gut, but the thought of Lily's sweet face chased away the creeping shadows of doubt. She couldn't let another moment slip away. Thrumming with determination, she stepped forward. The glass shattered like ice under a hammer, shards cascading around her as she plunged through the threshold. The world fell away, darkness consuming her whole. She fell and fell. The laughter echoed around her, but now it melded into something more sinister, a terrestrial chant growing louder, more menacing. Welcome, welcome, welcome. The chorus of distorted voices wrapped around her like an embrace, sinking tendrils of fear into her very soul. Then, she stopped, flung violently into a room, a mix of shadowy contours and waking nightmares. The air was heavy with decay, a musty stench of mold, and something else, something heavy and palpable. Lily, where are you? Jessica shouted, her voice trembling amidst the swirling shadows. She stumbled forward, trying to find her bearings. Memories of the house flooded back, the familiar creaks of the floorboards beneath her feet, now so warped and twisted. In the corner of the room, a figure emerged slowly from the depths of shadow. It moved awkwardly, a marionette with strings pulled taut by unseen hands, its movements jerky and unnatural. Jessica squinted, her heart racing, desperation knitting her brows together. Is it really you? She gasped, clutching her chest. The figure turned. The face was a sickened mirror of her daughter, eyes wide, yet vacant. Skin pale and stretched, thin like a ghost's whisper. Mommy, it rasped, her name floating on a ghastly breath. Come play. It recoiled slightly, and the light flickered just enough for her to see the room around them, walls scrawled with desperate messages in a child's handwriting, pleading for freedom, begging for help. Jessica gasped, backing away. Panic surged through her veins again like ice. This wasn't her Lily. This was something else, something malevolent. Behind her, the shadowy figures shifted, writhing with anticipation. The mocking laughter continued, echoing through the room like a twisted symphony, preparing her for something grotesque and horrifying. Mommy, play with us forever. Fear clawed up her throat. Stay back, she screamed, dragging her feet as if they were cemented to the floor. In that moment of dread, she felt an overwhelming grip close around her. The walls of light and shadow were closing in, suffocating her escape. She could not panic now, not when Lily's voice still beckoned. What was the truth hiding behind this horror? The whispers rose, drowning her, pressing against her skin, pulling her in. And then, just like that, the laughter twisted into a blood-curdling shriek, echoing. One last time before plunging into silence. Was this the end or a new beginning? Mommy, it's time to play. As despair threatened to consume her whole, Jessica felt the tug of something more elusive slip through her fingers like sand. But what had she unleashed by stepping into this dark abyss? The laughter began again, but this time it was her own, distorted, twisted, a remorseless echo of her desperation. She would have to fight, to survive, but could she ever find Lily? Or would she become part of the darkness that lurked just out of sight? And just as her hope began to falter, an unmistakable sound broke through the soft flutter of butterfly wings, a chilling reminder that her daughter might still be near. What awaited her in this haunted realm? Would she dare to chase after it? Jessica's heart thundered in her chest, a primal rhythm screaming for escape amidst the shadows that surrounded her. The figure that mirrored her daughter twisted and shimmered, its eyes empty voids that held a chilling promise. "Lily," she cried, desperation clawing at her throat as she stumbled backward. The echoes of laughter morphed into whispers, coiling around her, murmuring secrets of forgotten children trapped in the dark. She felt the floor shift beneath her feet, shadows reaching for her like sinister hands. "Mommy, please don't leave us," the figure pleaded, its voice an unnatural blend of her child's innocence twisted into something dark and tainted. Jessica's breath hitched, her mind a whirling storm of fear and determination. She couldn't let them win. "Not now. No," she shouted, grounded by the strength of her resolve. "I will find my daughter." From the depths, a flicker of movement caught her eye, a glimmer of warmth amid the icy dread. In the far corner, a faint light pulsed, drawing her closer like a moth to a flame. The walls whispered around her, warning, begging her to stay, but Jessica pressed forward, heart racing, urging her feet to carry her. As she reached the flickering light, the shadows recoiled, retreating like frightened beasts. She stepped through, hoping desperately that this was the path to her daughter rather than the mouth of madness. Suddenly, she found herself in an expansive chamber, bathed in ethereal glow, ethereal yet chilling. It felt both familiar and foreign. The air shimmered as if alive, vibrating with energy that both comforted and terrified her. "Lily," she shouted again, voice wobbling on the edge of fear. The answer came, faint like a distant echo, yet filled with a sweetness that danced in her heart. "Mommy." Jessica's resolve reinforced. She turned and raced deeper into the light, her lungs filling with courage instead of dread. The room began to pulse, the walls shuddering like a heartbeat. With each step she took, the echoes of rejected laughter faded, replaced by whispers of hope that wrapped around her like a protective embrace. Then she saw Lily's small silhouette flitting just beyond the light, a playful ghost weaving through apricot dawn. "Mommy, I'm here." Tears filled Jessica's eyes, blurring her vision as the radiant glow forced aside the shadows, illuminating an expansive garden filled with vibrant flowers and dancing butterflies. She felt alive, drunk on the beauty and light. She could reach her daughter, she could bring her home. "Lily," she cried again, rushing toward her. But as she approached, the figure wavered, flickering like a mirage. Fear crackled beneath her skin. Was this another trick? An illusion spun by the darkness? "Mommy, help me." Lily's voice became desperate, twisted into a plea that sliced through the air. "Hold on, baby. I'm coming." Jessica refused to let doubt cloud her heart as she lunged forward. Yet, the further she reached, the more the figure appeared to slip away. "Don't let the shadows take you," she screamed, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Join us," began the whispers, swelling with urgency, wrapping around her like a vice. The darkness churned angrily at the edges of her perception, but Jessica stood firm. "I'm not afraid of you." Suddenly, the garden shook, the shadows fighting back with primal howls, desperate to reclaim their prey. "You can't have her." Jessica screamed defiantly, her hand outstretched, a lifeline to her daughter. With a final lurch, the shadows surged toward her, but Jessica harnessed every ounce of power within, focusing on the bond of love she shared with Lily. Light exploded around her, blinding and warm, washing over the garden, dispelling darkness quicker than it could gather. "Lily, take my hand," she shouted, willing her love to cut through the fear. As the shadows recoiled, the light flared brighter, illuminating everything around. Jessica felt a small hand slip into hers, radiating warmth against the cold, real and tangible. "Mommy." Lily beamed, her spirit bursting forth, alight with joy. "We're together now. Let us go." Without hesitation, they turned their backs to the approaching shadows, bolting towards the flickering warmth. The shadows hissed, shrieks of loss echoing behind them, but the love between mother and daughter formed an impenetrable shield. As they ran, Jessica felt the grip of the shadows weakening. The garden floor transformed beneath them, cracking like ceramic, shattering the darkness into a million tiny fragments. Clicks and clacks, like waves crashing against the shore, echoed as they surged ahead, breaking free. And then they were out, tumbling through the threshold into blinding light, the house fading into a distant memory behind them. The cicadas sang. The world was alive again. Sunlight drenched them, warmth enveloping as though the universe applauded their courage. Jessica clutched Lily tight, heart racing yet soothed by the life around them. All that mattered was here, together, free from the clutches of darkness that threatened to tear them apart. "Let us go home," she whispered, tears staining her cheeks with relief. "Yes, Mommy. I'm so happy." Lily laughed, her eyes dancing as they walked toward the sunlit street. Jessica paused to glance back one last time, the house a mere silhouette against a blue sky, a reminder of the trials they had faced. But now, it was simply that a memory. And as they disappeared down the road, she felt the shadows of the past fade with every step, freedom beckoning forward, promising brighter tomorrows, illuminated by their unbreakable bond. They walked into the world bathed in light, no longer frightened, no longer bound. And just like that, their story transformed, resonating with hope rather than sorrow as they turned the corner towards home. But even as they faded into the safety of the horizon, the winds carried whispers through the trees, a reminder that all was not yet settled. Jessica shivered faintly, but together, they moved forward. Together. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more amazing fans. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. Let us hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support.